Look at this. I can move my window up and down by hand like this. What happened is that while the window was going up, there was a loud clack, and it suddenly stopped. I'm lucky because the window can still stay in the up position, so you can't really tell anything is wrong. And I don't need duct tape or a wooden wedge to keep the window up. And when I press the power window switch, you can still hear the motor. So that means the motor is fine. We'll only replace the window regulator and keep the original motor. Now, on this BMW 5 Series E39, there are two different setups. Mine is the pre-1999 version, and during this video, I'm going to make a pretty big mistake. But since you'll have watched the video, you won't make the same one. Hi, and welcome to Enjoy Wheels. I start by lowering the window completely. And since some models have a rear airbag, I disconnect the battery. The first thing to do is remove the outer window trim. To avoid damaging anything, I'm going to place some tape just below it. The important thing is that it sticks well at the top. I'm using plastic trim tools like these so I don't damage anything. And here, you need to lift the trim carefully without bending it. There we go. That already gives me a bit more room to remove the window, because yes, on this car, the rear window has to come out before removing the window regulator. I remove the door sill light. There we go. Next, I need to remove the power window switches. Well, I can't get them out. I'll do that after removing the door panel. Next, I remove the screw cover behind the door handle. Then I remove the screw. There we go. Well, since I don't have a sunshade, I can remove the door panel. You need to remove the clips all around the edge of the panel. Here we go. And there's one clip in the middle here. You just have to pull. There we go. Here's a close-up of the center clip. And I still need to remove the power window switches. In the end, removing the door panel didn't give me any better access. I recommend removing the switches before taking the panel off. Here, I've passed the door handle through the opening in the panel. Since I can't remove the power window switches with plastic trim tools, I'm using screwdrivers instead. Ah, there we go. Well, the connector is already unplugged. It must have come loose while removing the door panel. I finish removing the panel. And there we go. This here is the cable for the door sill light. And this one is the cable for the power window switches. As you can see, this car doesn't have a rear airbag. If yours does, you'll need to remove it. Now we're going to remove the sound insulation foam. To do that, I unhook the door handle. And I remove the center clip retainer by squeezing it from behind. It needs to go back onto the door panel. Be careful, it only fits one way. Now I can remove the sound insulation foam. The adhesive isn't holding very well anymore. If it doesn't come off easily, use a utility knife to help separate it. Next, I remove the inner quarter window trim. There we go. Now the inner window seal needs to come out. I lift the clips with a flathead screwdriver and pull the seal upward. And there we go. Now I have plenty of room to remove the window glass. As for the order of operations, we could have removed the inner window seal before removing the quarter window trim. Now I remove the rubber guide. It simply pulls out. You don't need to remove all of it, just the vertical section. Next, I remove the 3 screws holding the quarter window guide. And I remove the guide by pulling it upward. I remove the screw that attaches the window glass to the regulator. Then I carefully remove the window glass, making sure not to break it. The reason we did all of that is to gain access to the upper regulator bolt, which is hidden behind this piece of tape. I remove the tape. We'll replace it during reassembly. Let me shine some light on the bolt. It's an external Torx bolt, so you'll need an E-Torx socket. The size is E12. There is the bolt. Down below, there's another bolt securing the bottom of the window regulator. It only needs to be loosened. You don't have to remove it completely. It's a 10mm bolt. The regulator is moving now, so I won't loosen it any further. Next, we disconnect the regulator motor, squeeze the connector and pull. Then I remove the 4 Torx screws holding the motor in place. And now I can remove the window regulator from the door. And there it is. And here it is on the workbench. I'm just going to connect it to a battery to see where the fault is. Ah, there it works. And in the other direction. Ah, it doesn't work. The cable is getting stuck. Ah, I found the fault. The part holding the cable is completely bent, so the cable no longer stays in place. I thought it was going to be a broken cable, but no, here is the new part. It doesn't look anything like the original one, but the mounting points are in the same place, so it should fit. Of course, the new part comes without the motor, so I need to reuse the old window motor and install it on the new regulator. I remove the screws. There are 2 unused holes. Then I detach the motor. The cable comes loose, but that's not a problem. Now we pay attention to the orientation. The motor goes on like this. On the new part, there is a zip tie that needs to be removed. It holds the pulley and the cable in place. You must not let the pulley come out, otherwise you'll have to reseat the cable. I cut the zip tie. And I install the motor. You need to push firmly. And then I reinstall the screws. Just like during disassembly, there are 2 holes that are not used. Before installing it in the car, I check that it works. Good, it works. The new regulator comes without a nut, so I add one. I check that the window mounting point is correct. All good. Now I reinstall the new window regulator. I remove the zip tie that's no longer needed. I slide the regulator into place like this. Here I've positioned the lower mounting point of the regulator. There's the new nut, and I reinstall the 4 motor screws. It sits like this. There we go. The motor screws are back in place. I reconnect the motor. Tighten the lower nut. And now I install the upper bolt of the regulator. And that's where the mistake happens. If you can figure it out, leave it in the comments. I didn't realize it yet. I finished tightening the lower nut. Install a new piece of tape. And I'll show you the big issue. And here's what happened to my door. It's completely damaged simply because the original upper bolt was too long, since the hole in the new regulator is much shallower. Even while tightening, I didn't feel anything at all. I didn't even have to force it. In any case, I can't leave the bolt like this if I ever want to repair the bodywork, so I remove the upper bolt again. Now you either find a shorter bolt, cut the bolt, or add spacers near the bolt head. That's what I'm going to do. Here. 2 nuts and a washer. Be careful not to make it too thick, otherwise it will hit the window. And here I show you the original regulator, which has a much deeper mounting hole. Well, the damage is done. I continue anyway. I'll still end up with a working window, but I've got a dent in the door. Now we reinstall the window. I used a new mounting point, and I barely tighten it at all. I reinstall the quarter window guide. And reinstall the 3 screws. I reinstall the window guide. Next, I reinstall the inner quarter window trim. Then I reinstall the inner window seal. There we go. Since I'm about to test the window, I reconnect the battery. Just so you know, if your car has a rear airbag and you reconnect the battery while the airbag is disconnected, the airbag warning light will come on. You'll then need a skin tool to clear the warning. Since my car doesn't have rear airbags, I don't have that problem. I've reconnected the power window switches. I check that the window goes all the way up. And all the way down. Perfect. It works. I reinstall the sound insulation foam. You can reseal it if you want. I'm leaving it as it is. It still sticks a little, and the door panel will press against it anyway, so it won't move. This small foam cylinder goes behind the sound insulation foam. I reinstall the door handle. Very important. The green cable housing must go into this slot, otherwise the door handle won't work. I reinstall the door panel. I make sure the power window switch wire passes through correctly, and to keep the wire from slipping back inside, I'm going to reconnect the switches right away. I had unplugged them again after testing the window. I pass the door handle through the opening in the door panel. Ah, the center clip retainer fell off. I put it back in place. Then I start by pressing in the center of the door panel to engage the center clip. There we go. Make sure the door sill light wire comes out at the bottom. And now, just press everything into place. None of the clips broke. That's nice. I reinstall the power window switches with the white arrow facing upward. I reinstall the screw that holds the door handle. I test the handle. I close the door, and I open it again. Good, the door handle works. Now all that's left is to reinstall the screw cover. There we go. I reinstall the door sill light. Perfect, and I reinstall the outer window trim. I lower the window. It'll be easier that way. Actually, I'll remove the tape first. I don't need it anymore. And I use a rubber mallet to reinstall the trim. There we go, one last test. Good. This video is now over. To wrap things up, be careful with aftermarket parts. They don't always fit perfectly, as you can see in my case. I would have preferred a slightly more expensive part that fit properly, and especially one that didn't leave me with a dent in my door. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you found this video helpful, feel free to share it, give it a thumbs up, or subscribe to the channel. See you soon on Enjoy Wheels.